machine.
Rolling. Yes, we're rolling this time. Didn't forget.
Great. Are our phones on Do Not Disturb mode?
Welcome back to another episode of Tuxedo Time, where we wear tuxedos in it is time, podcast edition, Aftershow Home Renovation Series edition, episode 3.
How do you hold up 3 fingers? I don't know.
I almost said 2, but it was 3.
Oh boy, we have a lot to talk about in this episode. If you are brand new to this podcast, this is a podcast where we talk about all sorts of things. We have we have unfiltered, candid discussions about life, video production, and being a creator. The Aftershow edition is where we deep dive on a large project that we're doing on our main YouTube channel, Becki and Chris.
Which right now is a home renovation series that we have released the first 3 episodes for. If you haven't watched it, you can go and check it out on our YouTube channel, Becki and Chris. And this will make a lot more sense after having watched it.
It will. And if you are listening and you're not really sure where to find all these things, Becki and Chris...
You literally just said you put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode.
Film the Aftershow. Thanks. Thanks, phone.
For phones that are supposed to be smart and going to take over AI-wise, they're pretty stupid.
Yeah. Okay, what were we saying? Oh, yeah. Everything will be linked on our website, beckyandchris.com/podcast, episode 36. Links, pictures, videos, etc. Everything we talk about in today's episode will be linked there.
All right, so episode 3.
Give us a Cole's Notes of what the episode was about.
If anybody has not watched the episode, we have already moved into our house, which we covered in episode 1. We have already renovated the guest room, which you covered in episode 2. Episode 3 is us renovating the living room, our main living area. And to give context, this is a massive space. It's roughly 20 by 30 feet with big sort of vaulted ceilings and a lot of wood.
Yes.
And so the challenge was, A, how do you lay out a room that's 20 by 30 feet?
And have it function as a living room and a dining room.
Right. And B, what do we do with all of this wood?
So
those are the 2 main dilemmas, the two main conflicts.
Dilemmas. And there was another conflict, which we'll talk about shortly. But I do want to talk about the stone and the wood, because that was one of the reasons why we almost passed this house over when we were looking for it on the listings. We were looking for houses. We saw this house. We were like, whoa, that's a lot of stone and a lot of wood. And we decided not to look at it. And then months went by, and then we thought, you know what, maybe we should go check that house out, and ended up purchasing it.
Well, it was multiple factors.
There was, yeah.
It was the stone and the wood. Plus, it was a little bit on the higher end of the budget out of all the other ones we were looking at. And then there was like barely enough room for me to land.
Do you hear crackling, or is that mouth noises?
It's probably mouth noises.
Yeah, I think it's mouth noises. Okay.
How much is it annoying you?
It's not. It just sounds like popping.
Well, you know what? Give me some of that water.
Did you not have any drink with your dinner?
An apple soda.
Yeah, the sugar makes your mouth funny.
Is that a fact?
Facts. I have a cold sore on my nose. Oh, we can do this in 4 to 7 minutes. Don't drink it all. We're going to need that while I get pasty later. Okay, so we almost passed the house up when we saw all the wood and the stone on the listing.
Yes.
We decided to come look at said house, fell in love with it. It just had the feeling that we were looking for. And sometimes when you walk into a space, you're just like, this is the one. Mm-hmm. And it was the one.
It was. So we ended up pulling the trigger.
We did.
Our offer was accepted. And here we are today.
Here we are. Yeah.
So when we're renovating this room, basically the stone and the wood were still big issues. I guess.
Were.
Not big issues, but the amount of stone and the amount of wood were a little bit more for us.
Right. I think in the video you said it's like seasoning food.
Yes.
Season to taste.
It's like smoking meat.
A little bit of smoke is good.
Some people love a lot of smoke. I love a lot of smoke. You don't like a lot of smoke.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So when it came to this room in particular, you said it was 20 by 30. This is our main living area. This is the only room in the house that we can really watch movies, relax, hang out. It's like the main core of the house, and it's open concept. So we have living area where the TV is, plus the dining room in there too. And then we have a little seating area. So we had to kind of figure out how we were going to take this giant square and break it up into multiple uses and have this function as a media room without it looking like a media room, because we'll get into that in a few minutes, which is the dilemma. But so what we ended up doing is we took away a lot of the wood. We'll put up a couple of pictures if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't seen the videos, or you have for reference. So we started off with a lot of wood, a lot of heavy cabinetry, this like corner cabinet that was made for one of those cathode ray tube TVs. And we just kind of got rid of that, covered up a little bit of a stone with a drywalled wall, a media wall where our TV was going to hang, rebuilt some of the cabinets, painted all that out white, kept it nice and fresh and bright. And between that and having our floor refinished, which ended up being a lighter color, that kind of took care of a lot of the issues we had with the wood.
There were a lot of amber tones that got sort of attenuated, we'll say.
Yeah, and I think after too, when we added that huge gray couch and the dark charcoal rug and then the light gray rug in the other corner, it's, everything kind of started to balance out a little bit, I think. Okay, so obviously this is the after show. If you guys have been listening, you know the drill. If you're new here, we're going to talk about video production. We're going to talk about side stories that happened that we cut from the episode, because once again, that episode was like an hour. And
before you chop.
And
that was what, 22 minutes?
22 minutes. Bye-bye. So first I want to talk about the attic. I don't know if you were reading the comments, Chris, but a lot of people related to the pain that you felt up in the attic during the episode.
Oh, f***ing hell. It's in there. I gotta crawl through there. Oh, okay. My life. Aha, here we go.
So yeah, I get it. Anybody who has ever fished wires or done anything in the attic will feel that pain. And I was having flashbacks myself to our old house.
You spent a lot of time in the attic in our old house.
Because we did a full custom home automation system.
Didn't we talk about this in the last episode?
In ceiling speakers everywhere. So I had 12 gauge speaker wire running to every single room in the house, which all home based back to our media wall.
Yep.
And we had in ceiling speakers.
This was in our first house.
Yeah. And then I installed our alarm system, the Elk M1 Gold, which was like the creme de la creme alarm system.
Back then?
If you know, you know.
Was it back then or not currently?
If there are any installers listening to this, they know.
Yeah.
But I installed the Elk M1 Gold with basically quad wire essentially to all the sensors. We put basically windows and door sensors on every single window and door that opened the outside. So it was a lot of wire fishing. And then we installed security cameras too.
Mm-hmm. Every corner of the house.
And then we did a lot of extra lighting circuits too.
We did.
And a lot of custom lighting and recessed lighting. So between the high and low voltage stuff, I fished thousands of feet of wire in that house. Mm-hmm. And now coming back to this, even just putting speakers for the surround sound here.
Yeah.
While it's not nearly as complicated as our last project, it was still a little bit of a pain.
Well, the attic is bigger in parts, but also smaller in parts. And a lot of the places that you had to crawl into were very small.
True. Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have to do it, because I probably would have been up there in the corner having a panic attack. I'm itchy. It's too small. It's really dark. I'm tired.
Yeah, that's probably exactly what would happen. You know yourself.
Oh, 100%. That kind of brings us to a question that we have here. Adiria asks, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Oh, you most definitely are.
Oh, 100%. I suck at reading. Like, I have to listen to audiobooks because I can't read. Okay. Question is, at about 5 minutes and 24 seconds, what was that silver thing you used to feed the wires down to Becki? I've been using a wire coat hanger, very DIY, but it works if the tape doesn't slip, which it usually does at least once. So those were mesh pulling grips by Klein Tools. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of little tricks for fishing wires, I think, that you've kind of come up with over the years, but there's specific tools that really help you.
Yeah. So the wire... The mesh wire trap basically acts like a Chinese finger trap. I can say that because I'm Chinese. You can't say it because it's racist.
Okay.
So it acts as a Chinese finger trap, and as it pulls, it tightens onto the wire, and then you can just basically pull it through. So it's pretty handy.
Yeah.
Is it required? No. I mean, I used to use my probably go-to method last house. I had a 1-inch or 3/4 inch long auger bit, which is basically, it's just a long drill bit. We
used it in this episode.
Yeah.
Your mom goes, is that a drill bit?
Mamu appears out of nowhere. She was like visiting.
That's a drill bit.
She was visiting that one time when we were doing that wiring
I love
that project.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just drilled that through. and just electrical tape and just tape it to the thing and just pull it through.
Yeah. So basically, what this
Yeah,
person
I
is
also
doing.
I also did buy though fishing poles, not like
fishing poles
Yeah.
from Dick's Sporting Goods.
these are like orange fiberglass rods that snap together with, they have elastic in them, but they do they have, I can't remember. They snap together like tent poles.
Yeah.
So you can make them as long or as short as you want in increments of like 3 or 4 feet.
They have a little hook or something on the end, isn't it?
Yeah. And so what I do is like I hook the wire around the hook and then I wrap it in electrical tape so it won't give out basically or let go.
Yeah.
That sucks. You have to refish it. Oh my God, I'm having flashbacks to, I remember distinctly, I was up in the attic and our old house didn't have power at the switches. They ran power to the light fixture and then they looped a hotline down to the switch, which would then break the hotline and then back. So there's no neutrals at the switch. So you couldn't get true power at the switch, which you need for smart light switches.
Right.
So I had to fish another wire from the light to the junction box. And I was up top, drill a hole in the top plate. And then I was just like, basically like, it was actually like a precursor to IR.
Yeah. It was like house IR.
It was house IR, house intervention radiology. And I was basically like trying to thread this little fishing wire down, try not to drop it into the wall cavity.
God.
And then having to hit like a
tiny hole,
a knockout
yeah,
in the junction box that was like that big.
That actually brings me to a question too that I actually forgot to put in my app here, but it was on Instagram. Somebody was wondering how you learned how to do electrical. Like if you read a book or if you did a course. Like
I don't remember. It's just a slow thing over time.
I remember you bought a huge book on.
Yeah, I didn't read it.
I thought you read the whole thing.
Fuck no.
Shit. Sorry, person who asked that. I guess I lied. I didn't realize.
I just Googled things as I needed to know them, and
but
then
you spent like you and my uncle wired up our whole kitchen, and he taught you a bunch of shit.
So
that was like an apprenticeship.
Well, I kind of like learned stuff myself, basic things.
Yeah. And
then when he came, he was like, "Oh, you know a lot of this like foundation stuff," but the thing that I try not to do is I have to realize that like. It's Dunning-Kruger though, right? Like I'm not an electrician.
Right. And there's times so far in this house where we've been like, this is the point where we need to call somebody.
Right. Yeah. So like basic things, yes, I'm comfortable doing. But like, calculating volume for a junction box and if there's too many conductors in there, I'm comfortable with that. Wiring up new plugs, putting new breakers in,
like low voltage exterior lighting.
All the low voltage stuff. It's like, there's not really any inspections are required for that.
It's just
stuff.
like calculating wattage for your.
Yeah. Like I understand, I have a cursory understanding of electricity to be able to do these things, but I try to be hyper aware of Dunning-Kruger effect, meaning like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Like you know a little bit and you have peak confidence. And then as you start getting more involved in the field and learning more in a field, you actually start getting less confident because you're realizing, holy shit, there's a lot I don't know.
Right.
And how do you know what you don't know if you don't know it?
Exactly.
And then only till you become an expert at something, i.e. if you're an actual professional electrician, do you get back to that level of confidence than when you're beginning. So I try not to be overconfident and I double and triple check things with respect to code.
Yeah.
On a regular basis. And I call up the electrical inspector if I don't know something or an electrician if I don't know something.
Right.
So it's not just assuming.
Right. Yeah. I think that's important to know when it comes to DIY. It's easy to look at electrical and be like, oh, I can learn how to do this. But there are these little nuances that.
I'm more afraid of plumbing.
Yeah. Well, we're afraid of plumbing because we had a really bad experience with water on a number of occasions in our first house.
But not because of bad plumbing, but because of a leaky roof.
When our pipes exploded.
Oh yeah, the pipes.
So that was plumbing.
But that wasn't because of a shoddy plumbing job. It was just our hard Newfoundland water eating through the copper pipes, or whatever is in the water that does that.
And all of the leaks that we had.
I don't even know why the copper pipes would erode in Newfoundland and not here.
Yeah, yeah. So we called the plumber for most.
Yeah, but with that said, like basic
stuff. Yeah,
PEX makes things fairly easy.
You'll see that in the next episode, which is supposed to be on Sunday. It's not going to be on Sunday.
Did you talk to the glass people?
No, I haven't called them yet. I mean, it's been a week and a half. They told me at least 2 weeks. So
she's not going to call them.
I called the dumpster people today, didn't I?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, shit, bitch. We're going to move on to the next thing, which is the TV controversy. And I want to preface this by
saying that most people were Team Chris.
Yeah, most people were. I was greatly outnumbered.
Not even that, but people were offended by your hurtful comments.
Listen, I'm sorry. I would be a terrible tech YouTuber.
You would be.
Between hating the way TVs and like speakers and shit look like in a room.
You triggered so many people.
Plus the state in which our camera is currently. I posted a photo of it on Twitter today. People were like, "Oh!"
Can we just pause for a moment? And when I just realized that I just put my headphones on,
I didn't even notice. They're just covered in dust.
they are
Filthy.
absolutely filthy right now.
That's what our
And
camera looked like
Shout
today.
out to these Sony headphones.
Shout out to Sony in general. Because our camera is also Sony.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got these headphones in camera camp.
Yeah.
And
they're incredible, by the way.
what an awesome, you get these not door prizes, but
Gift
swag
packages.
bags.
Yeah.
And it's usually just crappy stuff that isn't just cheap and it's let's make gift bags for all the attendees.
Their bags were incredible.
Yeah, it was
everything was
a pair
useful.
of how much were these headphones? I don't
It
even
was
know.
$300.
It's pair of $300 headphones. It's holy moly, these are great headphones.
Here's wandered camera bags.
Yeah.
They're $300 as well.
Yeah, I still use, but I use these headphones and I use them all the time.
Yeah, same.
And they double as my ear protection.
Because they're incredible soundproofing. This is not sponsored by Sony.
No, there's not. And I'm sure that they're not rated to actually provide industrial protection, but I find subjectively they do just as good of a job, if not better, as just the earmuff style ones.
Yeah.
And bonus, I can listen to music while I'm renovating.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was ripping out the bathroom. Well, we can't tell them about that project yet.
Next drop.
Yeah. Anyway.
This is about the living room.
We were doing a very dirty project,
Yes.
breaking up much more tiles.
Many more
Anyway,
tiles.
so this is why my headphones are shit-hauled.
Yep. So the TV. So my parents are here. They got an early viewing of the episode because whenever we make videos, we don't just export them and upload them. They get uploaded. We watch them on the TV. We watch critically. We look for, audio, spelling mistakes, misaligned adjustment layers, anything that could be weird.
The one frame of doom.
The one frame of doom, exactly. So we hauled it up on the TV to proof it, and they'd seen it. And so my dad, the episode goes over. He goes, "That was fabulous. Excellent episode. There's one thing I would change." And then there was a dramatic pause, and I was like, "Oh my God. What?" Because my dad's really into architecture. He goes, "I would have gotten a bigger TV." I was like, "Fuck, no."
Tell you, man.
No.
But with that said, look, you have to look at the science, look at the facts. The size. If you have a TV of a certain size,
Yeah.
a fixed size,
Yeah.
and in turn have pixels of a certain size,
Yeah.
there is a distance at which if you exceed that distance, you cannot resolve
I
1080
understand.
versus 4K.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is
Right.
the recommended viewing size for the TV for that 14-foot viewing distance
Right.
was an ungodly size of 90 inches.
Ugly. You also have to think
It's
about
the purpose of the wall.
balance, symmetry,
Feng shui.
white space, and it has to visually make sense. A 90-inch TV. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but I hate the fact that we even had to put a TV in there sucks, but we had to put a TV in there because we love watching TV. It's just
Embrace the TV.
entertainment centers are just terrible to design around because they're just big black boxes, and he wouldn't let me get a picture frame TV. So
No, it wasn't I wouldn't let you get a picture frame TV. It's just that the picture frame
wouldn't let me
TV's
get-
topped out at 65 inches.
Exactly.
And we're not putting a little pinner 65-inch TV on that wall.
Anyway.
That would look so stupid.
yeah, that would look stupid. It can't be too big and it can't be too small. It has to be just right.
The Goldilocks TV.
So we did end up with the 77 or whatever it is.
75.
75. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but my opinions is my opinions. I don't like curtains. I don't like large TVs.
Which the
And
TV.
I don't like lazy boy furniture.
How do you feel about the TV?
I think that it's an appropriate size for the room and for the viewing distance.
I'm talking about the quality of the TV.
The quality of the TV is not good.
No. It was
It's already broken. It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a Samsung Q LED 60 or something.
It lasted just until the warranty,
And then it broke.
and then the panel needed to be replaced
Yeah, that's why I blurred out the logo.
because you didn't want to promote it.
I didn't want to promote it. It literally had a broken pixel line every 8 pixels.
Yeah. So
Just a month after the warranty ended.
clearly there was some if it's every 8 lines, it's too coincidental that's every 8th row of pixels.
Yeah.
That has to do with some sort of bit, a digital sort of artifact of some sort.
Yeah.
Or failure.
Yeah.
But anyway, they replaced the panel and now
There's a huge defect.
there's a splotch on it. I was like, you know what?
whatever.
It's
It
just
is
like,
what it is.
I had to argue with Samsung.
I'm fucking going Sony next time.
I had to argue with Samsung for so long
They
on the phone because they wouldn't replace it.
Yeah.
And then I talked to the guy. They were like, "Oh, do you want to send somebody over to assess it because it's out of warranty?" I was like, "Sure." I was like, that's going to be like $100.
It's just like your TV literally broke. We did nothing to it.
All right, fine. Send him over and then the guy who came he was like he wasn't like technically a Samsung employee. He was like a third party who was contracted by Samsung.
Mm-hmm.
Very helpful.
He was great.
He was like, okay, this is what you got to do. He's like, you got to call, tell him you've been a Samsung customer. You know, you've been happy with all the stuff. You have all Samsung products, and ask for a one-time warranty extension. Don't ask for a warranty extension. Ask for a one-time warranty extension that will cover this bill. I was like, okay. So I called up, used that exact wording. And they're like, okay, we'll grant you a one-time warranty extension and cover the cost. And they covered parts and labor.
Yeah.
Because they initially only wanted to cover the labor or like cover the parts and make me pay for labor. Like, no, I was like,
no,
this is your product failing. I didn't drop it. I was like, there's no physical damage.
Yeah.
It lasted just until the warranty expired. And then it was like a month later, it broke.
Yeah. The thing was interesting is that every third-party service person that came to look at the TV was phenomenal.
Mm.
Oh, they were all great.
One guy came in and then the other guy came to do actual repair.
Well, and in between, a guy came and he's like, hey, we're here to inspect the TV. I was like, you're supposed to be replacing the panel today. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah. And they're like, that's not what they told me. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for wasting your time.
You know what happened? Is that they created a new ticket once I got my new warranty to attach the new warranty to that ticket.
Yeah.
And that new ticket triggered their third-party person to come thinking it was a new complaint.
So the process wasn't terrible and we got it fixed. So thankfully it was decent customer service, but really upset that it broke right at like the 2-year mark, right after the warranty for how expensive that TV is.
They don't make things like they used to.
They don't.
Those goddamn cathode ray tube TVs wouldn't die if we tried.
We should have taken that corner cabinet. We should have just got an old cathode ray tube TV.
Exactly. 42 inches, creme de la creme.
Perfect size. No kidding. I'm kidding.
That was a massive TV back in the day.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember a 42-inch TV was
it was
holy
big.
moly, you rolling in dough.
Now you're like, oh, you can get a 90-something inch TV.
Yeah.
Ugly.
You're ugly. I'm just kidding. I take that back.
Fuck you. Okay, so there are a couple of... Thank you. I have a couple of comments here about said television.
Okay.
A lot of comments. Man, I felt real bad after. I was like, ooh, shit, yeah, right.
You really called out everybody.
Sorry,
who has this TV bigger than 75 inches. To be fair, you probably should have qualified the statement by saying a TV that's this too big for your space.
Yeah, and I think like on the other side, like a TV that's too small for your space is also awkward.
Yes.
Like it's going to look too small on the wall. Like it's all about balance. And
I think we could go one notch up.
Proportions.
We could easily go to 80.
I think we could have gone to 80. Would I have been happy about that?
That's what she said.
I think you're right.
She said we can go to 80. So now,
not ideal.
Since this TV is now dysfunctional, we
I'm
should
not
now
getting
get a new one.
I'm not getting another Samsung.
Put my foot down.
Okay, there's a comment here from Nix. They say, the only thing I don't get is having to look at the TV off angle. It doesn't look like it's placed for any seat in particular to be ideal. Everything else looks beautiful. The firewood stack's brilliant.
Didn't the same comment happen in the guest room because no one knew that the TV was on a swivel?
So the TV is on a swivel arm, just like the one in the guest room. So the TV, obviously, like we couldn't mount it off center or in the corner because it didn't make sense for the layout of the space. The living room is set up to have a number of seating areas. So depending on where you're sitting, you can adjust the TV basically to work for your viewing distance. So
TV extends, it turns.
It comes out, it angles exactly. So most of the time we sit in the corner of the sectional. That is the perfect spot.
Best seat in the house.
Best seat in the house. So we pull the TV out, angle it, and when you're laying down, you're straight onto it. So when we're designing these spaces, especially with like technology like that, we want to keep things as minimal as possible, but have them also extremely functional so that when we are using them, it's comfortable. So our solution here was to have that on a slim arm and to be able to pull out and angle. That was a must. And truth be told, we're really lazy. So it's actually pulled out and angled the majority of the time, unless we're having people over or we're shooting in there.
Yep.
I saw another comment about why didn't we build the TV into the wall and basically create a frame around it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. 2 years in, our TV broke.
Right.
We didn't want to build a permanent structure that forced us into the same ratio and same size TV.
And even a same size TV from a different manufacturer
could be a different ratio.
Yeah, we did that in our old house, actually.
We did.
We sold the TV with the house.
We did.
Because it was literally a hole in the slat wall.
Yeah.
And the TV was integrated in.
Perfectly.
It looked great.
It did look great.
Like, it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
But it was, you build your house around tech. That tech's only going to last
changes.
for so long.
Exactly. As we've seen with the corner cabinet.
Exactly.
You know, nothing dates a room like a specific cabinet to fit a TV. So that's, while it's a great idea, we didn't want to do it because it would require us to, change things around, or it could look dated quickly. Someone else asked, I didn't save this question, but there was a question about why our TV isn't mounted in the center of the space. That was a little bit of a challenge because we have a cabinet coming on one side of the wall, and then the cabinet drops down and it's lower. So, and then those cabinets have 3 doors on them. So we could either center it on the wall from the drywall to the fireplace, center it on the lower cabinet, but there's also 2 pot lights that are permanently installed, cut out in the wood ceiling.
Right in the soffit.
That are not centered with the cabinet. So we chose to center the TV on the lights, because centering the TV over the cabinet and having the lights off by a couple of inches would have been terrible to look at. But when the light's on, having the light uneven with the TV, like the way the light spilled, it was just not.
You wouldn't have been able to do it.
Couldn't do it. So,
this girl can't even poop if one of her wall sconces is 1 inch off.
Yeah, I can't deal with that.
Foreshadowing.
I can't deal with it. So, yeah. So, there are things like that where like sometimes like it doesn't work out. Like in a perfect world, everything would be centered. Unfortunately, we're renovating a house with existing, infrastructure that we had to work around. So you do what makes the most sense, and you do what makes you feel the least uncomfortable. We're going to talk about these strip lights. Can you tell us what happened when you went up onto the soffit to replace the strip lights?
Yeah, so there were actually strip lights existing on top of the soffit already, but they're not like the LED strips that we all think about nowadays. This was incandescent rope lights from the 90s. So they were high voltage, 120 volts. And they got hot. There were scorch marks. It was basically a plastic or like a rubber rope, like a plastic rope with little sort of like almost like little dot fairy lights in them.
It was kind of like what you'd see those like old tube Christmas lights that they used to have where you could like string them around things that are red and green.
But they were like incandescent like filaments. Like most of the filaments were burned out, and there were scorch marks on the wood on the top because they got really hot. That's one thing. But
terrifying.
The second thing, and I was like, this is a fire waiting to happen. We still have some of those on top of the kitchen cabinets.
I know.
I personally don't turn them on because I want them
I noticed that my dad would turn them on when he'd just flick on all the lights.
And then I would turn them off.
Yeah, I just turn them off at night.
I tell him.
Yeah.
But the other thing that was a little bit sketchy was that the connection in which they were wired up, they didn't plug in. They were just 2 conductors, 2 Moret nuts, wire nuts, and connected to a piece of Romex, non-metal wire coming out of the wall.
Oh my God.
And a connection outside a junction box.
Safety.
And just anybody who doesn't know anything about electrical is you don't put connections outside of junction boxes. You don't hide junction boxes. You don't put connections outside of junction boxes.
We just found a hidden junction box.
We found a hidden junction box
this weekend.
We found, So there have been a couple sketchy things in this house electrical wise.
Yeah.
I also found a 20 amp breaker with a home run of 14 gauge 2 conductor wire.
You also found...
You're supposed to have 12 gauge wire for a 20 amp breaker. So I had to downgrade the breaker to a 15 amp breaker. So long story short, these rope lights, not only were they sketchy in themselves, but the connections in which they were wired up was pretty sketchy too. So had to take those, I terminated them into junction boxes, created plugs in which we could then plug in Hue strip lights.
So we replaced all of those with Hue strips.
Yeah.
How many?
We also didn't really talk, like in the episode, it shows me fishing low voltage wires, but then it kind of cuts to the Hue strips.
Yeah.
So it kind of compresses all of the low voltage and high voltage stuff into one little montage.
Yeah,
but
you get the idea of what's happening, but without all of the details.
You get the essence, and we
That's
we
why
cut
we're
it
doing
down.
the Aftershow.
Exactly. Yeah. So we terminated the electrical outlets. We terminated the electrical wires up there into outlets. We fished low voltage 12 gauge speaker wire for the surround sound. Mm-hmm. We put the Hue strips, and then we could just plug into the strips, into the plugs rather. We put in.
How many Hue lights do we have?
I think it's 27.
It was so expensive.
Yeah,
it was really painful to do, but fuck, was it ever worth it?
It was a lot of money, but
it was so worth it.
We can make moody scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, this is the one room we went all out because this is our one living space where we spend like any free time that we have, we're there, whether it's watching movies, eating dinner, drinking coffee in those corner black chairs, you know, watching YouTube, reading books, like it's in that room.
Yeah.
And we went all out with the furniture that we chose, the lighting that we chose, and outfitting that whole place with Hue.
Yeah. So Philip Hue, this is not sponsored by Philips.
Hue. Philip Hue. Who's Philip Hue by? Buddy Philip.
Buddy Philip. So Philips Hue, it's not sponsored by Philips Hue.
This is not sponsored by anybody.
No. But the reason we went with them is because they have, in my opinion, the highest quality light.
I agree.
With the exception that they flicker on video. It's certain colors.
But we have a hack for that. And by hack, I mean a plug-in.
Yeah.
We have a plugin called Digital Anarchy Anti-Flicker plugin, and it is phenomenal.
Yeah. It does a very good job.
It does a really good job. So that's one of our favorite plugins for video, especially for this, because you want to show like the lighting, right?
It's useful. I mean, like I wouldn't go and film a whole video with that lighting and just be like, oh, I'm going to fix this in post.
Because it's very heavy on the CPU.
It is, yeah. But for like a random clip of B-roll where you want to show the essence of a room, and it might only be like a 5-second clip, you can easily remove the flicker.
Yeah, we used it for heading east too.
We did, yeah. So the quality of, aside from the flicker, but the quality of light is almost indistinguishable from incandescent light in my opinion. Yeah. And you get all the colors and you can make a whole spectrum of colors. So I like it for that reason. The app is okay. It's not the most intuitive, but it's not the worst app. But the logic for the automation isn't as good as I'd like it to be.
Right.
Because in our old home, we used a Universal Devices, that's the name of the company, ISY99i, which is the name of the box.
You're really creative.
And it was made by a bunch of engineers, clearly.
Yeah.
The interface was not very pretty. It looked like it was made by a bunch of engineers, but very powerful logic. And
it broke a lot. It stopped working a lot of times.
I think it's because
you had to like code stuff.
That was like the Insteon modem.
Yeah.
So there's this like happy medium where it's like Apple versus the rest of the computer ecosystem. It's like
Hue is like Apple.
Things that just work.
It just works.
But are a little bit more limited.
Yeah.
In functionality versus things that you have to tinker with more, but is not as limited in functionality.
You don't need any coding experience or any experience to use the Hue.
There is something very, it's not coding, but it's more like logic.
Yeah, I guess.
Like if-then statements.
Yeah.
And it was pretty satisfying making like these complex if-then arguments, like if it's this time of day and this motion sensor goes off, turn this light onto this.
Yeah.
If it's this, then that. So you can make some pretty cool. So like when I got up in the morning, we had a sensor on our door. If I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I had it say like if like primary bedroom motion or door contact trips, and between this this time and this time, fade on hallway lights to like 10%.
Yeah.
Because it knows I was going to the bathroom.
Right.
If it's during this time of day. So you could do like complex stuff like that. I don't know if you can really do that with Hue.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I think that it's just easier to use.
And then we'd have like variables that are stored variables and like very complex.
We had a lot of really complex things like fading the exterior lights on over 10 minutes at sunrise. But you
can do that with Hue though.
You can do it with Hue. Actually, it does track the time change.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. That's a new addition to Hue, actually. They added that recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like within the last like 6 months to 8 months.
Yeah,
probably.
but I remember like I would have like the lighting box, the ISY99i talk to the Elk M1 Gold.
Yeah.
They would be integrated and they would have like variables. I could change variables and have like stored data, turn variable to this, variable whatever to this, and then you could use that to like totally change your logic. So it's very complex, but anyway, nonetheless, Hue overall, I've liked it, but one of the big downfalls is there's a maximum number of devices you can have on a Hue network.
We found that out this weekend.
Ask me how I know that 63 lights is the largest number of lights you can have.
How do you know?
Because we have more than 63 lights.
We need a Hue sponsorship.
We do.
Because it's getting ridiculous and we haven't even done all the rooms yet.
Bankrupting us.
Yeah. But I will tell you, if you drop one, they probably won't break.
Maybe. No.
Well.
We had to get a new Hue bridge just for the exterior lights.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, we're going to move on to a question I actually didn't save here. I saw a comment on the video that kind of said something along the lines of, if you're looking at this living room and you're really liking it, just keep in mind that the furniture in the space costs a small fortune, and if you're on a budget, you can't get this look.
Well, they kind of insinuated that if you're saying, oh, this all looks great, just remember that it looks great because it costs
It's expensive.
a small fortune.
Right.
That was the essence of it.
That's right. Yeah. So I wanted to touch on it for a minute because like I said, we did go all out with the space. We did splurge on a lot of items. This is our second house, but our fourth living place. We really, really wanted to buy it once, buy it right.
We're older than we look.
We are. With that being said, though, I truly feel that if you liked the look of our space, our makeover, and you wanted to mimic that on a budget, you could very easily do that. There are so many like more affordable options to get the same look. You just kind of have to hunt for it. And I think when we talked about IKEA, we talked the entire last episode was about IKEA, but in our last house, we were on a very strict budget. And I think that we got a decent look using IKEA, mixing, dark, moody wall paint and some other, finds that we found at different stores to kind of create this look.
Knock off Barcelona chair.
Yeah. Knock off Barcelona chair, DIY Nelson bench, like building stuff, just finding stuff that's, cheaper, or things that actually look expensive but aren't, and kind of mixing them in. Right.
Yeah. The comment, I think, wasn't a negative comment.
No, I don't think so either.
I think it was a neutral comment.
I agree.
And I think that there is some validity to it because they also mentioned too that, note that a lot of this stuff was not sponsored, but gifted.
Well, the only thing that was gifted was the couch,
right,
and the black chairs. Thank you, Gus.
Yeah, and those are 2 or 3 rather big items.
They are. The couch was almost $5,000.
Right. So that's a
huge chunk.
An expensive couch. That's probably half the furniture budget right there.
Yeah, we would have purchased it anyway
Yeah, that's true. But it's you don't have to have a $5,000 couch to make a space look nice is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is you can put a $5,000 couch into a space and it still might look like shit if you haven't put it together nicely.
Exactly.
And you can put a $1,000 couch into a space, and if you pair it with the right things or do it right, you can make it look great.
Yeah.
So I think while I don't think the correlation with price and how good something looks is 1-to-1.
I agree. I saw another question wondering what we did with the furniture that we had in the before images that were in the living room. Everything you see here, we did reuse it. We talked a little bit about size, and we'll talk about that after, but we did take all of that furniture and use it here.
Shop in the house, babe.
Shop the house, babe. Yeah, we did. I didn't want to get rid of this couch. This is also Gus. So is that chair. So is that table. So is this. Everything's Gus. We love Gus. Thank you, Gus, for all of the support over here. They make fantastic stuff.
You've always loved Gus since the beginning.
Always. And I was so excited when they were...
You wanted a Gus in our first house, but you couldn't afford it. And then when we moved to Vancouver, we worked with them and Sam Design from Newfoundland to furnish our apartment. Sam Design is an interior design and furniture store
in St. John's. Incredible. And so just, been building this relationship with Gus, and I did some, promotional videos for them for their own marketing purposes. First one being on this couch, and then we did a couple more during the pandemic, and then they were supposed to come up here before the pandemic hit. We were going to shoot some stuff in the living room, and then all that stuff happened. And so, and of course the videos got delayed because of that, and building supplies and getting contractors in and whatever. So, but yeah, shout out to Gus because we love. Let's talk about the floor refinishing for a minute. And we thought it was ash and got the ash delivered. Yeah,
I've always been like, as an amateur woodworker, mm-hmm. I've always had a hard time telling the difference between woods, like birch versus maple.
Yeah, birch, maple, ash, hickory, they're all
just kind of these light hardwoods.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sure if you worked in the industry, you'll know. That's this, finished. But the flooring guys who do this every day, they came in I think it's ash. Let's order ash. And they ordered a bunch of ash in. Did not match.
They installed it in the corner next to the TV, and they were like, I don't think this is ash.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can't really tell the difference. And he was like, no, look. And they ripped it out.
Took back all the wood.
He's like, I think it's select hickory. And then I deep dove into the paperwork that the previous owners left. And deep in the binder, there was a receipt for the wood that said select hickory.
You know what's interesting is that when you are buying something from the original owners, and somebody who has clearly and meticulously built their dream home, which this was,
and
they paid attention to all the details and they kept meticulous notes. We got handed a binder by the former owners full of like all the notes, the plans, the blueprints, the receipts, all like the estimates. So you go back far enough and you can figure out what vendor, installed this or what is used on the floors. And you sure enough found a receipt for Select Hickory.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, if we just dug through this in the beginning, we would have been able to tell the guys not to order ash.
Anyway, I think it was kind of cool. It just kind of shows you the attention to detail that they weren't just like, we'll just put it in anyway. They were like, this isn't right. And so they sent back the ash, they ordered Select Hickory, and then they redid it. We hired this out because, well, first of all, we had a lot of floor to patch around the TV area when we took out that corner cabinet. But we also had our kitchen and little coffee nook area done as well, which was all old cork. You'll see that in the kitchen episode eventually. But we had the cork removed and had that flooring just continue throughout. And then they came and they laid that hardwood and then sanded everything down and
finished it all as one slab.
It's a massive space.
It's probably the amount of new flooring they put in between the kitchen and the coffee nook. It's probably equivalent to another living room, basically.
Yeah.
More or less. In the pantry.
Yes. And a lot of really strange angles and trying to fit around cabinetry. It was just a job that we weren't willing to take on.
Well, how long did it take 3 guys?
It took a week and a half, 3 guys here all day long.
It would have taken us months.
Yeah. We just didn't want to do it and we didn't feel like we could do a good enough job. And we felt that we would probably end up having to have somebody come in and redo it. So we were just like, you know what? We're going to find the people with the best reviews and we're going to have them come in and do it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we did.
There you go.
Okay, let's go. A couple more questions here now. The St. Marcus says, how well does Becky's iPad doodle translate to the actual vision? I've done iPad doodles and mood boards before photo shoots, but somehow they always fall a little bit short of what I actually had in mind. What do you guys do to make an idea a reality 1-to-1? I think it can go either way. I have a brief pretty much idea of what I want to do. Sometimes it's right on the money. Sometimes it's completely different. So for example, when we did the studio, my drawing, I did it before we did anything down here. And I would say that 70% of it is the same. We did change like the accent wall. This was all going to be OSB. We decided not to do that. This was going to be a completely different couch. We decided to keep this. So, but with the mood boards for some of the rooms, except for the bathroom, one, which you guys haven't seen yet, we actually shot it afterwards because that was an afterthought. That segment was an afterthought.
Right. That wasn't part of the original. Like we didn't really have a plan when we were.
Right. Because we shot that like so the episode 2 was shot 3 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago. And the living room episode was shot in like 2019. So we didn't really know what this was going to be. When we were shooting the bathroom episode, that's when I decided, we should do this mood board sequence segment. So the bathroom one, I actually did that before we started the renovation or like midway through the renovation. And that one is 100% exactly what we had planned.
Which they'll eventually see once we get the glass installed.
You'll see it when exactly. So, but for the header image, like what we call the marketing shot for the home series, I sketched 2 sketches for those. And I think it's pretty close to.
Yeah. Speaking of the bathroom glass, that's the only missing piece.
Yeah.
I really do think now I got reminded of that stair project.
Yeah.
Facebook 10 years ago this day. I was like, oh my God, that was a complex glass project. Well, you definitely do the glass in the bathroom.
It had to be mitered. The glass has to be mitered.
You're fine.
Well, okay. The next question is from CD Ramir. Was there a reason why you didn't sand and stain the floor yourself? Did you have to add flooring to where the old TV cabinet was? So we kind of just touched on that.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. Alan Bradbury says, did you guys give any thought to painting the rock? That would have been a lot of rock to paint. Oh, yeah. I would not have that in me.
No.
But also, I think that it could have risked it looking cheap.
There's no going back.
There's no going back. Yeah. It's not like with wood where you can I hate this. I can at least sand it, which you wouldn't want to do.
Yeah.
Because fuck. But
I wouldn't want to paint it either.
No, I don't think so. I think if anything, if we were going to do something, we would cover it in drywall. Mm-hmm. But after we started working on the room, I actually really liked the stone. The stone really grew on me.
Same. Yeah. It wasn't it's not something I hated when I came to the house, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh my God, look at the stone. I was like, well, I appreciate the craftsmanship in this stonework, this masonry work. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I probably wouldn't have ever put it in if it wasn't already here.
Yeah.
But I like it out because it gives that kind of cozy lodge vibe, right?
Yeah, I think it's different. It adds a different element than just plain white walls. And I think it's just a different architectural type detail.
You know, if we have kids in this house, they are going to be screwed.
This house is not child proof.
I know what I would have been, what I was like when I was a kid. I was climbing on the roof because our brick had little jut outs that made like a ladder. I could climb up the corners of our house and climb onto the roof.
Okay. Oh God.
I would be on the soffits when mom went away. I would be on climbing the rocks.
What is this?
That
Do
camera's
not
gonna die.
Kareem GR says it's nice and such, but I have one question. How do you wash your windows? Do you hire somebody? Remember we talking about painting it black?
We don't wash our windows.
Actually, speak for yourself.
I don't wash our windows.
I wash them.
Becki washes them.
How do we wash the windows? The triangle ones, I have not washed the insides of those. The rest of them, I just wash them with Windex. Vacuum them off with a horsehair brush. Use Windex. And the outside, I just bought some new Windex outdoor window wash that attaches to your hose. So I'm going to try that. Apparently, according to my favorite cleaning Instagram account, Go Clean Co.
Do you have multiple favorite ones?
No,
do you have multiple?
It's just
cleaning?
the only one.
It's the only cleaning.
It's the only one. The only one you need, man.
Therefore, your favorite by default.
Bought their handbook and everything. Yeah, it's good. Windex. Oops, Windex. And I do all the cleaning myself in this house. We do not have a cleaning person. It's me.
I have a cleaning lady. Person. You're my cleaning lady.
Okay, next question. We've got Steve McCrory back for a question. They said they have no questions this week because they're speechless, but they actually have 3 questions. Okay.
Liar.
Steve asks, how much overall value over the original purchase price do you think you've added to the property so far?
In materials alone, now this covers the projects you've seen and you have not seen, $48,500 in materials alone. So if we use our formula, our rough calculation of if we were paying someone to do it, we probably double that.
Yeah.
So maybe $100,000.
Okay. The next part is, have you had a professional evaluation done since completing the renovations?
So yes, but
we're not done yet.
It was not for it wasn't for like, oh, let's see how much value we've had. It was because we were refinancing our mortgage and they actually had to get it appraised for the bank or whatever. And we were underwhelmed.
Yeah, we were.
Our mortgage broker was like, what?
Yeah.
It's only this much more. Like, he's like, everything around you guys has gone up 20% across the board.
Yeah.
He was like, that's really weird. I was like, well, what I drew from that was either he felt we overpaid for the house because we did go above asking.
Yeah.
Or he came in and realized that the house was half torn apart because it was during a renovation. So I guess from his standpoint, what he had to do was he had to value the house as if we were going to sell it right now.
Yeah.
And if you have a bunch of rooms that are torn to pieces.
Yeah. It's like, how can you, the garage was like hoarders, living room was like hoarders, bathroom tore up, basement tore up.
Yeah, like there's projects on the go, like trim pulled off.
Yeah.
The bedroom. And
I was giving him the whole PowerPoint, man.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know.
Did something fall?
I think it was up there.
Oh. I was giving them the whole PowerPoint. I was like, this is the before, this is how much we've done, these are our plans.
But
like,
he
was really interested. He
interested.
did. Well, anyway, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Whatever. But it has no bearing on the actual.
No, it doesn't.
Like
we could turn around and sell it for whatever we want. Really,
it's a meaningless number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could be like, we could just say what the price is, whether it's old or not. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Value is only what someone's willing to pay for it.
Yes. The last part, Steve says, has Steph, your realtor, been around for coffee and a walk around / sleepover in the guest room? No, she hasn't, but we should have her over probably this summer.
Yeah.
Maybe once we get our patio furniture, maybe we'll have Steph over for a little smoked meat barbecue. Yes. Yeah.
Some tomahawk steaks.
That's it for the questions, but we have a couple of tips to talk about because, you know, we're talking about production. We actually didn't really talk about production. We're really the design choices for the space. We kind of talked about that in the actual episode. We're 50 minutes
51 minutes.
But we figured that we'd talk a little bit about, you know, at least give you some takeaway for that you can kind of implement in your own space. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was scaling your furniture appropriately for a room. So I'm going to pop this photo up on the screen to give you an example of the scale of this couch in the living room with Chris like lying on it. This is the picture.
What am I doing?
You're sleeping. You're asleep. You are literally taking up the entire couch.
Why do I look like such a blob?
Because that's what you look like when you're sleeping. So that was an apartment size couch. It was very small for that room. So there's a couple of things
I feel like you need to get another picture of me now on the larger couch.
On the larger couch.
In the same position.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing. My parents are here. All four of us can lay on that couch and like not be touching pretty much, or like sit, half lay, you know, and be comfortable. It's not like we're squat up. So when you're picking out, you know, furniture for your room, you want to try to scale your stuff appropriately to the space. You don't want to stuff a large room with a bunch of small furniture. And you also don't want to put huge furniture in a small space because your space will feel small. So when it came to like our Vancouver apartment, we had a really small space. So we went for apartment size furniture with some normal size pieces so it didn't feel like a miniature thing. And it was appropriately scaled for the room where it felt like it filled up the space, but it didn't feel like it was overwhelming the space. Here in this room, we really needed to have a huge couch and we really should have a larger rug.
And TV.
But it's really difficult to find really big rugs that aren't just jute. Like if you're looking for a charcoal gray rug, it is really difficult to find anything larger than a 9x12.
Inexpensive.
So expensive. And, you know, when you're buying rugs, you can't really try them out. It's harder to send them back. It's challenging. So yeah, I think with our living room, we got the bigger couch. We got a very large coffee table. The room could handle a large coffee table. And same with the artwork. We got big artwork. The table can be large. Even the light above the table is big. We got the large size Nelson pendant light. I think somebody was wondering what happens with the light if we ever want to move the table. The light stays. We don't move the table.
We don't move the table.
Yeah. With this space, we used our knowledge in photography to our advantage. I think this is something that if you're into photography and video, you don't really see a connection between interiors and photography and video, but you can take a lot of that knowledge and kind of flip it and use it in a space. So why don't you talk about what we did with the white wall?
I was like, what did we do? Yeah. So the corner where we painted all the cabinets white, put the new doors on, painted everything white, got rid of the warm wood, which actually was very dark because there was are they called transom windows?
They're called clear story windows.
Clear story windows, right. So there's clear story windows on one side and then a lot of wood versus the other side, which was the southern facing exposure where there was basically tall floor to ceiling windows and it was much brighter. So that corner felt really dark, that side of the room, the north side of the room. So we painted it all white and essentially it's like a reflector. So if anybody's shop is used to like, studio lighting and photography, you have a key light and then sometimes you can have a fill light, but you can also just use a white surface to reflect or bounce light. And we essentially kind of use that as fill for the room, more or less, just to kind of brighten up the dark side of that room. Yeah, exactly. With that, we had those prints on the wall. We like to put glass in front of our prints because, there's a lot of dust that's happening. As soon as you have paper that's exposed to the air and dust, you can't really wipe it down without potentially ruining your photo. So we like to frame with glass. In this room, it was challenging because we have that bank of windows directly in front of the glass. So we went for a museum glass, which is supposed to be the most anti-glare. And you can still see that there is a glare. That's how bright and how many windows are in that room that there's still a glare. Now, a lot of times at certain angles, it doesn't even look like those prints have glass on them, which is phenomenal. But you can see how much light is coming in from those windows. So it did really help to have all of that white just bouncing in, and even just like a little bit of fill just makes that whole space a lot happier and lighter and more comfortable to be in. Yeah, we were then drawn to that side of the room where we would avoid it before. Yeah. Even during the day, sometimes like I hated sitting over there in the day before. And now I'm like, ooh, you can actually see the sun coming through the window and like lighting up the corner where the couch is. And I think it helps too that the couch is light gray. Yep. So there's still light reflecting off that as well. So keeping that, nice and light and bright helps. Somebody was wondering why we didn't paint the TV wall black for the TV to kind of fade away into the wall. And we didn't want to darken that space any more than it already was. The key there was lightening everything up. Yep, exactly. Let's talk about mixing woods. I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to let you talk about that. Okay. In the space, we mixed a lot of wood tones. And normally I wouldn't love to do that, but in this space,
it actually makes the room, I think, feel cozier and a little bit more collected, where modern can tend to sometimes feel really sterile, especially if you're using white walls. So I think when it comes to mixing wood, keep your woods similar undertones. So if you're using like cool woods, pick all cool woods. If you're using warm woods, warm tones, pick all warm tone woods. So we have like maple and walnut, which are all kind of these like yellowy warm woods, and they're different, tones of that, but they're still all warm. So they all kind of coordinate. And they show up a couple of different places in the room as well. So at least 2 pieces of each wood kind of makes a space feel a little more collected. If you have 1 maple piece and 1 walnut piece, it's probably going to feel mismatched. But if you have 2 or 3 walnut pieces, 2 or 3 maple pieces, and they're kind of, intermingled within the room and kind of balanced out, then I think it can work.
You got walnut and plexiglass wood.
Yeah. Plexiglass wood. Yeah, exactly. And there was a question about mixing styles. What happens if you have a lot of furniture from a bunch of different types of styles and nothing really goes? And I think the best way to deal with that is to pick a color palette and keep it, within that one color palette. And then I think you can mix a bunch of different styles so long as that the colors match. So whether it's neutrals or like creams or grays or...
Didn't you say that people are getting away from like matched sets nowadays?
Yeah, I think that people are really moving away from matched sets. I think like gone are the days of walking into a furniture store and buying the matching coffee and end tables, or buying the matching dresser and nightstands.
Like from the same product line, you mean?
From the same product line, yeah. I think that people are kind of drawn to a more collected look, where it feels like you found a couple of different pieces that kind of work together.
Sprezzatura.
Yeah, exactly. It's like less matchy-matchy. I think if you're going for a formal look, then maybe you're going to want to do the matching. Or if you're going for a really minimalistic look, then the matching probably works there as well. But if you want kind of something a little bit more dynamic, then sometimes mixing and matching different cuts, I will say, different furniture pieces of the same color or same tone or even same era, I think that can work.
And like you said, it can soften the sterility of the modern genre.
Yeah, exactly. It can definitely feel like that, especially in a white room. And I'm a big fan of a bright white space. I also love a dark and moody space, clearly. But I do find that since moving into this house and, living in our living and dining room, I have been drawn to a lot more wood because I like the way it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. Next week's episode will not be the bathroom makeover because the guys came to install the glass 2 weeks ago and they cut it wrong. I believe the quote was,
perfect use of sad trombone.
Perfect use of sad. Yes. I was a sad tromboner when they told me it was wrong. They were like, so this is a 135-degree angle and they cut it 90. I was like, wah, wah, hit it. Thank you. Yeah. So that episode was supposed to go up this, Sunday. Unfortunately, it is delayed. We cannot post that video without the payoff of having the custom glass installed. So what was that?
Your parents upstairs are
Jesus.
getting rowdy.
So we're going to toss in a couple of DVD extras in between while we wait for this glass to be done. A couple of videos I'm super excited about, and hopefully they add value to you guys. But apologies for that delay. It's out of my hands.
Exactly.
The one thing that you hire out gets fucked up.
Seriously, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything in that got messed up.
Yes.
But
yeah,
we were able
spoiler.
to fix
our
mess ups.
All right, that is it for us, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and you can catch the entirety of the Home Reno series on our main channel, Becki and Chris, linked in the show notes. And keep an eye out for episode 4, which will probably come in the next 3, 4, 5, or 6 weeks. We don't know yet.
We don't know.
To be continued. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Or listening.
Or listening.